Once upon a time, in a land where the stars spoke and gods walked among people, there lived a woman made of light. Her name was Inanna. She was not just a woman, she was the queen of heaven, the goddess of love, beauty, fertility, power, and storms. People worshipped her, temples were built for her, songs were sung in her name. When she walked, flowers grew from the ground. When she laughed, the skies lit up. She was powerful, glorious, unstoppable. But even the brightest stars have shadows behind them. One day, Inanna stood at the highest point of her temple, looking out at the world she ruled. But she didn't feel victorious. She didn't feel powerful. She felt hollow. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To have everything, beauty, praise, position, and still feel incomplete. But it happens, not because we're ungrateful, not because something is wrong, but because something within us is waking up, something deeper. No one could see it, not the priest, not the people, not even her husband, Dumuzi, but something inside her whispered, "This is not all of me. There is something missing. There is a part of me I have never touched." And sometimes the most dangerous journey is the one we take inside ourselves. It's easier to stay in the light, to stay in control. But growth doesn't happen where we're most comfortable. It happens in the places we avoid, in the questions we're afraid to ask, in the feelings we've buried so deep we forgot they were even there. So Inanna made a decision. She would go to the one place she had never dared to visit. Not a place of power, not a place of beauty, but a place of truth. The Underworld. There was one place Inanna had never gone, a place no goddess of joy and beauty would ever dare to step into, the Underworld. It was ruled by her sister, Ereshkigal, the goddess of death, sorrow, and silence, a woman made of grief, a woman forgotten in the shadows. People feared her. They whispered her name only when someone died. She was the mirror opposite of Inanna. And Inanna decided to visit her. She said it was for a funeral, that her sister's husband had died, and she would attend the ceremony. But funerals are not just about honoring the dead, they're about confronting what's dying inside us too. This was not about loss on the outside, it was about the parts of Inanna she had outgrown, the masks that no longer fit, the roles she could no longer pretend to play. And so she descended. To enter the Underworld, she had to pass through 7 gates. At each gate, the guard stopped her and said,
"If you wish to go deeper, you must give up something you carry."
And she did. At the first gate, she gave up her crown, the symbol of her authority. At the second, her necklace, the sign of her beauty. At the third, her royal robes, her identity as queen. Then her breastplate, her bracelets, her rings, her scepter. Each step down, something was taken, and yet, strangely, something inside her began to stir. A quiet voice that had never been heard before, one that wasn't polished or proud, one that trembled but told the truth. You see, we spend so much of our lives collecting things, titles, labels, expectations, and we begin to believe they are us, but they're not. They're just layers we wear to be accepted, layers we use to survive. But what happens when all of it is gone? When there's no beauty to admire, no role to play, no power to hold? At the final gate, Inanna stood completely naked, bare, exposed, silent. She wasn't the Queen of Heaven anymore. She was just a woman who had nothing left to prove and everything left to feel. And that was when the real journey began. Inanna, naked and powerless, stood before the throne of her sister. Ereshkigal did not smile. She did not speak. She simply looked. Her eyes were not cruel. They were tired, heavy with centuries of pain no one had dared to witness. And then, in the silence of the underworld, Inanna was struck down. The woman of light, of love, of laughter was no more. Her body was hung on a hook, still, cold, gone. Above ground, something shifted. The flowers stopped blooming. The bees stopped buzzing. Lovers forgot how to hold hands. It was as if the entire world held its breath, waiting. Because when a woman like Inanna disappears, when her spirit goes quiet, the world feels it. But here's the truth no one tells you. Sometimes a part of you has to die, so the rest of you can live. The Inanna who came to the underworld wasn't whole. She was made of shiny pieces, carefully arranged, admired, yes, but incomplete. Death stripped her of everything, but in doing so, it revealed what she had always been beneath the crown, the jewels, the worship, just a soul, still sacred, still enough. Down in the depths, something changed in Ereshkigal too. No one had ever visited her. No one had entered her world and stayed. No one had seen her rage and not run. But Inanna came, and when she died, something cracked open in her sister. Not pity, not regret, but recognition, because pain knows pain. And sometimes, even the dark just wants to be seen. Eventually, help came. Inanna was rescued, not with violence or war, but with ritual, with care, with a whisper to the gods that said,
"She matters."
And so she rose. But not as the woman she had been. She didn't ask for her crown back. She didn't rush to reclaim her temple. She walked slowly, like someone who had learned to breathe again. There was power in her silence now, wisdom in her stillness, a strength that didn't need to shout. She had touched the bottom of herself, the raw, trembling, hidden parts. And instead of breaking, she grew. And when she returned to the world, the sun didn't shine brighter because she was beautiful. It shone because she was whole. This ancient story, thousands of years old, is not just a myth, it's a mirror, because every woman at some point in her life will feel the pull of the underworld. A breakup, a loss, a moment when everything you thought you were falls apart. You will feel stripped, you will feel alone. You will ask, who am I without my titles, my beauty, my roles? And like Inanna, you might feel like you've died, but also like her, you will rise. Because the truth is, your real power is not in how perfect you appear. It's in the dark places you survive. It's in your ability to come back, softer, wiser, stronger. Not everything that breaks you is meant to destroy you. Sometimes it's how the light gets in. You don't have to be whole to be powerful. You just have to keep choosing to rise.